Hey, everyone. I'm so excited to be here for another episode of Poe on the Call. My name is Cris Rivers.
And I'm Mandy Mac.
Yeah, so we are here with the incredible Jolene, Poe coach and creator of Studio X Presents.
Hello.
Yes. Thank you so much for being here with us today. I know you have a show coming up, so you're extremely busy.
Just a little bit.
Yes. Right. Thank you so much for taking the time out to talk with us today. And maybe this will be a nice, relaxing break from all the chaos. But maybe not as we journey to the beginning of your pole dance journey.
Yeah.
Do you want to tell us a little bit about how you started pole dancing?
Yeah, it's kind of confusing. I guess not confusing. It's one of those I was exposed to it a lot earlier than I started. I grew up in Massachusetts, left immediately, and went to Southern California. Big culture change. But I kind of got to reinvent myself, and I had all these groups of friends. And one of my groups of friends was this group of models, and they were these really tall, beautiful women. And then there's just like little 5 foot tall me, like, hey, friends. And they got really into pole dancing. So in college, I was like living on the beach, hanging out with these girls. We were going to Playboy Mansion. We were going to these big parties. And I'm like, these are the coolest people ever. But they had poles in their house. We were on YouTube all the time trying to look stuff up. And I'm trying to give them like my gymnastic and dance experience. Like, oh, I think she did this. But I didn't really get that into it until I moved back to Massachusetts. It was like 2009. And all of a sudden there was this news, there was a pole studio opening up and everyone used to whisper it. And I went immediately. I thought I could convince my Massachusetts friends, and they were like, no, absolutely not. They're like, we're not doing that. So I went by myself, and then within 2 years was back in California and just kept doing it.
Oh my gosh. So you got all your training in Massachusetts and then brought it back.
I mean, kind of. By the time I got back to California, they were way farther ahead of us already.
Yeah.
Once studios started popping up, it was like you couldn't get them to stop. It's like gremlins.
I know
But
now.
yeah, so I just kept going from there. And every state I moved to, I was like, pole.
And when did you start making the transition from post student to pole instructor?
Pretty immediately. I was doing pole in Massachusetts for like 2 years. And then when I got back to California, because there were so many studios popping up, there was no regulation. I started dipping my toes into teaching. It was mostly covering classes, or I have a dance and gymnastics background, so doing conditioning and teaching different ballet elements regarding pole. And then I did a mentorship in 2013 that really kind of jump started me, put me on a schedule, started teaching, and had someone to kind of guide me through the process, who I still talk to today, which is nice. So that's when I kind of really got into teaching.
That's awesome. I love that you still talk to them even today. Those are the best relationships.
Right. That's as it should be.
I know, right?
I agree.
Did you find did you find your movement background in dance helped when you started pole dancing more?
I think gymnastics helped more because when I first started pole, it was not necessarily dance as far as formalized dance. It was more like you were either doing flips or you were dancing as saluti as possible, which was great. The actual like professional dance elements, I feel like they didn't come until a little bit later. And then that's when I kind of honed my own style instead of trying to pick between these two very drastic ends. Uh, but yeah, I think dance sometimes helps, but sometimes it hurts a lot because I was a ballet dancer. So I have an external rotation. So any tricks with an internal rotation, my body's like, good luck.
Oh my God, same. I remember that too. I was like, what? What?
I've heard
Internal rotation?
Yep. Like laybacks, those took me forever. My legs were like, no, we're good. No thanks.
Wow. That's good to know, though. It's always learning something from these interviews because I've heard that quite a bit from a few ballet dancers, and they have similar issues with like laybacks and inside leg hooks and
Mhm.
or outside leg hooks because of that
Yep.
internal rotation and stuff.
Yeah. So when people say, I don't have a dance background, I'm not good at this, I'm like, actually, it's probably a good thing.
Too funny. I love it.
What would you say has become your favorite pole dance style?
I like to do ballet. I really do in heels. I call it sultry ballet because I tend to veer off of the appropriate ballet. Um, but it's still more sultry, I think, than sexy. I go for the, I don't know, vampire vibes where I try to look like I'm floating, but also that I might kill you. So that's kind of my vibe. I can teach a lot of different styles because I've tried them all, but I always veer back to this very delicate, very soft, slow movement. So I've adopted that as my own.
Love it. I love the descriptions you use, the vampire.
That's what I always think of is like some movie with vampires and they're just like floating, and I'm like, that's what I want to look like. But
Yes.
also, they're kind of dark, and that's also what I want to look like. So yeah.
Oh yeah. Well, how long have you been a teacher?
I've been on schedules since about 2013. Um, but that was just pole. I think having the background of gymnastics and dance kind of threw me into teaching at studios. Before then, I just was kind of haphazardly teaching pole, not really knowing what I was doing. So I usually tell people I've been teaching for just over 10 years, which is I kind of round it because I'm like, I don't really know. I was somewhere in the country learning it.
Wow, I love that. And then you started, based on what I read from your bio, performing as well.
Yeah, when I moved back out to California, all the studios were pole and aerial. So they had pole, silks, lyra, and then some other things. So this was back when every studio had an unlimited membership for everything, which was fantastic. But that was back when studio memberships were like $100 a month, um, way back in the day. Uh, so yeah, I just kind of jumped into whatever they were offering, whatever fit my schedule, and then did some showcases in California, but when I moved to Nashville, they have a massive performance scene. So within, I think, 30 days of me being there, I was doing live dancing girls and I was getting booked for all these random small private parties. And I was like, yeah, I'm in for all of this. What do you want me to do? And since Nashville is centrally located, I feel like a lot of events were being driven there because it was so accessible that it just, there was a point where I wasn't even trying to book things. I was just getting booked for things, and it was fantastic. And then COVID hit, so that stopped.
I was like, is it still like that? Should we be in Nashville?
Uh, Honestly, moving from there to here was really difficult because of that, because there's not a lot up here. There's stuff, but it's very few and far between. I think there's still a lot of opportunity there, but since Nashville as a city grew so much, there's a lot more there's a lot of performers there now. A lot of people move there for that. I think I just happened to be there right before that hit, and I still have friends that produce shows there, and it's great, but it's definitely not the way it was pre-COVID. A lot of those buildings we used to use are getting bought up by developers, and it's so expensive to do the shows now. People are like, absolutely not. And now they have all these residency shows. So you have like Jamila DeVille now lives there, and it's like, I'm not trying to compete with Jamila. I've seen her perform. She is strong, and I'm not trying to compete with that. So I think there's just a lot more competition there than there was when I was living there.
It's like another New York City.
Yeah, there's definitely there's I kind of watched Nashville like jump into its own little spotlight, and I just hit it at the right time, and Yeah.
Um,
Because I go back,
wait.
I mean, I'll be back in September. I go back once a year and I try to bring students from here to be like, this is what I mean when I say the community is very different because they're very performance driven, even just in the pole community there. So, like, you could just lift your leg and the whole crowd is just like, oh my God. And you know, like, they don't really do a bunch of tricks. I think a butterfly is probably the extent of the tricks they'll do. It's just a lot of dance and performance, and it's just very different.
That's so interesting. I love to hear about different regions and like, because everyone's so different.
I know. I haven't been to Chicago recently, but I used to love their pole scene. They were very performance, but it was like aggressive performance, which was cool. I don't know if it's still the same. I feel like a lot of places probably changed post-COVID, but yeah, Chicago used to have a really good scene.
Well, they do have two PSOs a year, so it seems like they might be still aggressive.
Yeah. I know they don't do a lot of the shows that they used to do, which kind of bothers me. Wildside was one of my favorite pole shows there. And I talk with Anime every once in a while and I'm just like, girl, I miss it. And she's like, I know, it's not going to happen again. I'm like, damn it. It's one of my favorite events to do.
But wait, now you're back in Massachusetts.
I know, but I leave a lot.
But thankfully you are though, because I feel like you're I correct me if I'm wrong. I feel like you're the only one that's putting on pole shows in Massachusetts.
There's some in Boston, but I think they're more monthly shows. Mine is
Okay.
the only annual pole show that happens at a venue.
Yeah.
Because Mission Motion happens. I forget. Nice to Heart has one, and then I think the rest are all. Oh, Cat Studio has the Art of Fitness, which is South Shore. So there's stuff, but it's not always. They're all very different. I do Art of Fitness every year. She lets me do that. I don't know why. I've taken it upon myself to be comedic relief, and so she lets me do that. But that's a big show. That's like partially their studio showcase, a big charity event. So there's like 30 acts. It's this whole night. But she does that once a year at a venue. I think Nice to Heart does hers every couple of months. And I think it's at a venue in Somerville. I'm not 100% sure. But yeah, there's not a lot. I want there to be more.
I agree. Same here.
Right?
It's just
Tell us
hard.
how hard it is.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Venues
tell
are
us how hard it is or easy so that we can do it.
Well, if you can find a venue that is
Right, that's the
inexpensive,
thing.
I can tell you in Worcester, there are only 7 venues that will allow me to have pole, and only 2 of them have high enough ceilings. And one of them, I've been trying to get a hold of someone for over 3 years, and I cannot get a hold of anyone. And the other one is the JMAC, which is where we do our show. So there's not a lot of opportunity. I mean, I've checked places in Boston, outside of Boston, in various towns and cities, and it's so expensive in a lot of places. I mean, one of the places told me it was 11 grand to rent it for the night. And I was like,
Wow.
I don't know. I don't know who you think we are, but like, no. So yeah, it gets really expensive. The rest of it for me is fairly simple because I've been doing events for so long. It's just finding the venue and then having a core group of people that are willing to work with you. I have a really good group that bends over backwards. I don't know if you can hear that. It's my neighbor. I have a really good group of women that bends over backwards to make this show happen every year. It's about 5 of them that without them, the show wouldn't happen. They just show up and they're like, what do you need? And they're at the venue for like 12 hours, just making sure that the community gets to put on the show and the competition, and they load everything and set everything up. And without them, it wouldn't happen. So you got to have that too.
Hell yeah. Did we mention what it was called yet?
Oh, maybe. It's studioXpresents. We do a theme every year. This year's theme is grim fairy tales.
Yay.
Yeah, it's gonna be interesting. There's a lot of nature. There's a lot of trees. Yeah, every year I'm the weird friend that's like, "Hey, is your neighbor cutting down trees? Can you call them and ask if I can have them?" which happened. I definitely showed up to someone's house and was like, hey, your neighbor said I can have these trees. Cool. Yeah. So sourcing materials.
That's exciting though. I can't wait. Grim fairy tales.
It's gonna be good. I can tell you there's blood. There's blood somewhere, and it's gonna be good. Yeah. Sometimes people come at me with some crazy stuff. It's usually my students who are like, you're kind of crazy. How about this? And I'm like, oh, okay. I guess so.
OMG, that sounds so fun. And how long have you been doing this?
We started in 2019. It was pretty much right after I moved back. I realized that in Worcester, as far as I knew, the only show going on was Mission Motion. And it was like twice a year, which was great. It was at a venue. It was really cool. But I wanted more. And so I just asked some girls and was like, hey, do you want to do this thing? And they were like, yeah. And so then we did it. I went old school pole route. I was like, let's just wing it, see what happens. And it worked out. And so then we kept doing it.
That's awesome.
Yeah. And then somehow we got on the weekend of the Worcester Pride Festival, which we do every year now. And that makes things very interesting because the Worcester Pride Festival is directly out front of the venue, partially in the venue. So you can't park on the street. You can't drive on the street. You have to basically find the venue, find a parking lot, and then walk back to it. But it's a good time because we get to kind of intermingle. A lot of our performers are either part of, working at, or attending the Pride Festival. So they just kind of drop their stuff off. They're like, bye, see you later.
I love it.
That's awesome.
That's here in Massachusetts. I didn't even know that. So,
yeah, Worcester likes to have their own everything. So Worcester Pride is in September, not to be confused with the rest of the country.
Yeah.
July, June. I think it's June.
Oh my gosh. I love the theme too of the show. Do you want to tell us some past themes that you've had? Because you've had some really creative ones.
So first year we did Angels and Demons, and then COVID hit, and we tried really hard to do a show and they wouldn't let us. Last year we did Let Them Eat Cake. We try to go back and forth between like a darker theme and a lighter theme. So last year was Let Them Eat Cake. The year before that was Deity, which was a lot of people actually chose like positive, happy deities. And I was like, I was thinking like murder, but okay. Because we don't give anybody any submissions we get. We don't give them any parameters of what they have to do. We're just like, hey, whatever you want. So yeah, we did dark, and then we did Let Them Eat Cake, and now grim dark fairy tales. And then we will announce next year's theme on Sunday, the day after the show, we have a whole contest that happens so people can guess and win tickets. But yeah, we do that every year too now.
I love that. You mentioned submissions. Do you mind going more into that for those who might be interested to do it next year or in the future?
Absolutely. So we do open submissions in the spring. It's usually in March. It can be anything, pole or aerial. Our aerial rig, I believe, is set at about 14 feet. And we just take open submissions for the theme. I manage the traveling performers. So if we have any travel in guests, I manage those. And then the core team does the submissions, because if I did the submissions, it would just be a bunch of ballerinas and that would be boring for everyone else. So we have someone who's like a really aggressive dancer who's on the core team. We have someone who is more into like the creativity of costuming and theatrics. And then we have an ex-dancer who's like, I want to see lines. I want to see extension. I want to see all the pretty things. So they make up a good group and they kind of pick within the parameters of what we've already built. And then we tell people anything you can do that's group acts or duos or something we don't have. Like this year, Kofi's doing cube and Lisa's doing chains. And then we have 2 silk artists, one from Texas. So we try to get a bunch of different apparatuses, different ideas. Someone I think has a hoop. I don't know. Somebody has a bunch of hoops. I read the forms and I was like, okay, whatever. So we try to open it up creativity wise, burlesque, drag, aerial, pole. whatever people want to put on stage. And then we encourage people to keep submitting, because we have our baseline of our show and we just pick whatever fits into that. And that doesn't make it not a good act. It just means whatever fits into what we currently have, and that changes every year. But then we do group acts. So if people are trying to perform, but they don't necessarily want to be on stage by themselves, or they don't want to create the act, we do a choreographed group act, which is our opening act and our finale. And we have a local pole instructor who does the choreo for that. That way, if people want to get some stage time, kind of learn a little bit about the show, but not have the pressure of having to create a whole act, they can do that.
I love it.
Yes, that sounds so fun. And the videos, it's video submissions, and then the event is live.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Love that.
Wait, and then you know all of the acts that are going to happen, like exactly, or have there been any surprises?
There were a lot of food surprises last year. But in my defense, the food surprises were my friends who are professional performers in Nashville, and they were staying with me. And the morning of the show, they were like, "Hey, can we change some stuff?" And I was like, "Yeah," not even thinking about it. But I was like, "I trust you," and it went really well. But they do, like, the submissions come in and we get kind of an overview of what people are doing. We pick the acts, I organize them. And then about 2 weeks before the show, everybody is required to fill out a tech form, which gives me so many details about their act. That way, if there's a rig change or if it's going to be messy, we can add like an MC bit or some kind of like comedic intermission. I don't know, something so that we can fill it in to hopefully allow the show to flow in a way where it's entertaining, but also so that we can keep everyone safe.
Like allowing for like blood cleanup time.
Yeah, that's one this year. She's like, we have blood, and then there's this and this and this, and then it's this, because with the Grimm fairy tales, anyone that chose acts that were corresponding, so if it was like Hansel and Gretel and the witch from Hansel and Gretel, we had them mix their acts together so that it just rolls through as one act. So there's a lot of that this year, which means there's a lot of my props manager, Vanessa, is like, she is going to be working hard this year, because there's a lot of, okay, sneak on stage, get this, don't let the audience see you. And she's like, okay. I don't know how you're going to do that, but okay. Yeah, Vanessa's been with us for years too. She's great. The amount of people this year who tried to make her their human prop, and I was like, no, she has a job already. Leave her alone.
She'd be on stage the whole time.
She would. She's a really good human prop. A lot of people have used her. She's really good.
Oh my gosh. So do you have like a dress rehearsal, or are you just don't doing it?
We do a rehearsal. Maggie at Paradigm kind of lets us use the space for rehearsal, which is great. So we do group rehearsals, and then we do a stage testing. But the stage setup is the same pretty much every year. So if they look at photos or video, they can see what the setup kind of is. But I like to run on the idea that, I mean, I never know what the stage is going to look like. I just am like, yep, I'll do the show. I'll be there. And then you figure it out when you get there. Sometimes, you find out it's carpet and the wall is 4 feet from the pole, and there's lights right above you, so you can't invert. And you're like, okay, I'll figure it out. So we're kind of trying to remind people that entertainment for us is more important than any crazy tricks, because that's the pole world I come from. That's the world I miss. That's what I want to bring here, to just be like, you don't have to be upper level, right? You could be doing pole for 1 year and still come out with this amazing piece that has a dip spin in it.
I love that.
Love that.
That definitely opens it up to more dancers out there.
Yes. Yes. If you want to throw crazy hard tricks, there's plenty of shows for you. Mine's probably not it. Except for Lisa. Lisa does crazy stuff every year, Lisa Bella. And I'm just like, okay, girl, I trust you.
Too funny.
She's doing like a spatchcock on a swinging pole, and I'm like, okay, I'm gonna do a dip spin. Thanks.
I love that. She is awesome. Oh, I can't wait. I'm excited for next year. I might go into, and if you're interested in submitting, y'all, the link's gonna be in the comments so you can check that out, especially spring's coming up. You have months to prepare. I'm thinking about stuff now.
Yes. Right, and by the time this episode comes out, that the new theme will be released.
It
Yeah.
will. It's hard for me to not tell everyone what
I'm
it
like,
is, 'cause I have it planned out for like 20 years and only one other person knows. And I'm constantly calling her like, so for next year. And she's like, let it go. Let it go. Or I'll be like, so in 2028. And she's like, can you calm down?
That is too funny.
That's awesome though, to be so inspired.
Yeah, I have Pinterest boards and Instagram boards and mood boards and
Oh my gosh. Well, thank you so much for sharing a bit of insight to what goes on behind like putting together a show like that.
yeah, it's not that bad as long as you're organized. It's just like a student
Mhm.
showcase, but bigger, a lot more stuff.
Oh my gosh. Right. I
We
can't
for-
even imagine like finding the right location and then
oh, I
I'm
know,
sure
right?
like insurances and stuff too.
Yep. Getting insurance, it's like every time I change something, I have it in writing. I'm like, I need you to confirm in writing, yes, you cover this. And they're like, okay, yeah. Every year I annoy our insurance lady where she's just like, yes, I confirm, please move on. Okay, thanks.
Too funny.
Yeah.
So many things.
I feel like asking, are you a big spreadsheet user?
I am for this. Yes, we have a whole production schedule that tells every single person exactly what time they have to do what. And the whole run of show is color coordinated. It's in columns, and I send it out to everyone. And I tell every single performer, if it is not on here, it's not happening. So you better make sure it's on here. So then it's like, listen, the team runs off of that, and that's it. So
Too funny. I love that. OMG. See, y'all, spreadsheets will save your life if you're trying to start a pole business.
yeah, exactly.
Too funny. OMG, back to the normal questions at hand. Do you have a
Yeah.
favorite pole trick?
Favorite pole trick to do or to teach?
Oh my. Either or.
Um, my favorite pole trick to do is an inside leg hang. I like teaching it, but I get a lot of pushback in the Northeast of people being like, I don't know if I'm gonna like it. And so I don't teach it as much unless I know them and I'm like, shh. I really like teaching airwalks, like the side forearm press airwalks, because it takes people a lot of time to get those. They think they're going to be a lot easier than they are. But when people get them, oh, they're so happy because it's just so much effort. So yeah, I like teaching those a lot. Any kind of airwalk, really.
Yes. I love that. Thank you for sharing that. We've never been asked.
Which one?
Yeah, that's
Right.
so thank
But
you
that's
for sharing.
important too, because I definitely have a trick that I love teaching and a trick also that I hate teaching, which brings us to Jolene, which trick is your least favorite trick and also
Wait, I want
maybe
to know
your
what
least
yours
favorite
is.
trick?
What do you hate teaching?
Honestly, pirouettes give me anxiety all the time.
I was so happy when you did workshops because I don't want to teach Bird of Paradise, Cocoon. I don't want to teach any of those. And I was like, yes, somebody else teach those.
Those are fine for me.
Which is great. I hate doing upright crucifix because external rotation, small thighs. So I teach it from the top of the pole so I can slide down the whole time I'm talking. But I also really like teaching that one because it gives me a way in lower level classes to open up the conversation on bodies and how sometimes what you've been told to not like about your body is going to be really helpful for pole. I hate teaching. I don't really hate teaching any move. I hate teaching to people who don't want to do the move. because then they're just going to keep asking for demos and they're going to keep asking questions. And I'm a 3 strikes kind of person where my students know if you keep pushing back, I'm just going to say, don't do it. Don't do it. Do something else. Like if you don't want to do a move, you're not training for anything specific. Don't do it. Just don't do it. I don't care. But yeah, flips. I don't love flips, I guess. I just do them slowly, which I think intimidates my students, but I'm like, I don't want to flip. I'm a very delicate person. I don't want to flip. So yeah, probably flips.
I love that too. Funny thing.
Which is my #1 selling workshop, in case you're wondering. I had to change it to kips and cartwheels because everyone's like, can we do the flips? And I'm like, oh God, I don't want to.
OMG, I absolutely love that.
Just because I don't want to demo them. I'll spot them all day.
Oh, I'm so excited for that workshop.
It's going to be good. I have a lot of cartwheels.
Yes. Oh my gosh. I always thought I could do them. And then like, cause I can do a regular cartwheel, but then I add the pole and I'm like, what?
Very different.
Yeah, it's very different.
So I definitely need you.
I think my knees hate flips the most. If I can do them slowly, I've been working on doing a back tuck as a back pike so that I can do it slowly because I don't want to come down onto the ground hard.
No,
I suck
that would
at
suck.
flips are like one of my favorites, but I hate landing, especially with like these. I'm working on delicate landings.
I like fake flips where people are like, oh, it's a flip. I'm like, it's actually not. Those are my favorite for sure.
Right? Like I'm actually just getting down.
Yeah. I was actually kind of tumbling, but I'm glad we did it.
It was a flip.
Yeah, exactly. That's the flip part. I'm just following the style.
Oh my gosh.
Yes.
Do you use special hand and body grip or?
I change it all the time. All the time. This week alone, I think I used Babe Grip, Dry Hands, Monkey Hands, Dew Point. Still use shaving cream every once in a while. Whatever is in my pole bag, because if students leave their grip everywhere, I just take it. I'm like, no, put your name on it. Don't leave it everywhere. It's actually not bad at some studios, but other studios, I'm like, if your grip is here for 48 hours, it's mine. You got to put your name on it. But I do give grip out. If people are like, oh, I lost my grip, I'm like, here, have one of the 38 I have in my bag. Because I just collect them. Otherwise, they get thrown out. And I'm like, no, it's like gold. So it depends on the time of the year.
You have one for every need.
Pretty much. I usually have about 9 in my bag, 9 different kinds.
Oh my gosh.
I'm headed that way.
It's worth it. In New England, the weather changes so much that you need it.
And your body changes so much as well. Depends on like your stress and what's going on.
What you ate that day.
Yep. Facts.
Yep.
So it's okay.
Well, you tried so many different grips. Do you have a favorite or?
I'm still a big fan of the Platinum Stages original, like tacky grip. It feels like a Post-it. I love that stuff.
Yeah.
I love it so much. I just want to feel like a Post-it. That's it.
I can't. I don't think I've tried that one yet.
Oh, it's my favorite. I don't own any right now because I go through it so quickly. It's my favorite. I just end up with a lot of dry hands because I'm like, well, okay.
Is it similar to like tattoo?
Less tacky. It legitimately feels like the back of a Post-it, but on your hand. So it's not super duper grippy. It's almost like a watered down tattoo.
Okay. I wonder if it's the same glue as a Post-it.
I hope so. I mean, it's Platinum Stages, so probably. They're like, no, it's just Elmer's glue. We put it in a new container.
No. Oh my gosh. But if it works, like,
yeah, exactly.
We'll
if it works, I'm doing it.
We'll use it. It's fine.
Yeah.
Except for the beeswax. I don't like the beeswax grips. They get slick.
Ah.
I don't like those.
Right. I usually don't use those either.
It depends for me. I think it depends on what's going on with my bodies. I used to hate them, but now sometimes they're not so bad.
Hmm.
I wonder if they changed their formula too.
Hmm.
I haven't used them in a long
Well, let's go back to your teaching. You teach at a million different studios. Do you want to tell us what you teach?
time. I teach everything except for intro. I'm not a great intro teacher because I overwhelm people. If it's a big class, I'm good. If it's like one-on-one, they're like, oh my gosh, this girl's crazy. But I think after a long time of doing pole, it's hard to go back to remembering what it was like your first day because I came into pole straight out of dance and gymnastics. So when they were like pirouette, I was like, done, next move. And they're like invert. I'm like, okay, not a problem. Like I was a competitive gymnast 2 years ago. Got it. Next. So I forget what it's like if someone is like, hey, I've never done sports. Anywho, I teach a lot of low flow, heel stuff, and I teach a lot of trick stuff, very separate. I teach at the bar twice a month, which is kind of cool. We have a nice little core crew that shows up and we just do tricks. And then Paradigm is my home studio because it's right near my house. So I'm just there all the time. And her schedule changes, I want to say seasonally, either that or like twice a year. And we just kind of adapt and adjust. So right now I'm teaching tricks classes and we are announcing a new class, which by the time this comes out, it'll be announced, which we're going to be doing. It's called Edge. We're going to be doing a lot of edge work, a lot of low flow heels understanding, a lot of stylistic elements, performer stuff, technique and performer stuff. So I'm really excited about that class. But yeah, that's it. It's just like all the tricks or low flow heels. That's it. Apparently nothing in between.
I mean, making money doing what you love.
Yeah.
Yes. Do you offer online classes too?
Um, I don't think the bar does. Paradigm does do online, and then Studio X has virtual on-demand content, but it's not like one-to-one. It's just we have like a whole on-demand studio. Uh, yeah, so kind of.
Tell us more.
So we have pole, chair, floor work, flexibility conditioning. We're adding lyra. So we have basically what a pole or aerial studio would have, but it's online so that as people stay at home post COVID, they can be doing these things from home. So we have an in the air studio, which is pole and aerial, and then on the floor, which is everything else that you could just be doing from home. Especially in winter, I have a lot of people when I travel and do workshops. I have a lot of people traveling hours to come to these workshops, and I'm like, "You're crazy! I could just make a tutorial and send it to you." Like what? When I go to Nashville, there are these girls that would travel like 2.5 to 4 hours, and I'm like, for 1 hour workshop, like crazy. But my style works really well down there, so I get it. So we've just been putting stuff online. We have 3 instructors, and we just are building this whole on-demand content of stuff. That way, it's there all under one domain.
Hell yeah. Is it on your own platform or are you hosting it on like a Patreon or?
Nope, it's on Studio X website.
Oh, that's cool. Hell yeah.
Yeah, so gonna keep building that and see what happens.
Yay.
That is
We
the
have
way
a,
to go.
I'm sorry?
That is the way to go now. Like that on-demand content, they can watch it when they want.
Yes. And our members are the first people we put in the show. So they get first dibs. We have mostly members outside of Massachusetts, but I'm like, hey, you could travel, come hang out with us. But yeah, we're trying to build like a virtual community as the world goes virtual so that as the pole community grows, I know a lot of people from my generation, they're just trying to find their new place in the pole world. And so I'm just putting everything online. I still do, jams and stuff with people online. So I was like, we might as well have something that allows people to do pole virtually if you live in a small town or if you're just, don't have access to a studio or funding for a studio. Who knows?
Right. I'm glad you say that too, because like not every style is for everyone. And if you live in a town where there's pole that doesn't feel good to you, like that sucks. At least there's an online option now.
Yeah, I know what that's like. I've definitely, when I got to Massachusetts, I was like, what do you mean you don't do a lot of like heels dance? That's all I do. And now
Oh my
it's
gosh,
so much better now. Ugh.
I heard that about California too. Everyone wears heels.
Oh yeah. Nashville and California, like, so I used to work at the Chrome Bar, and it cracks me up because all of the classes at the Chrome Bar are combo classes. So they're not just one trick. Everything is a combo, which I was like, is that not how everywhere teaches? It's not. Everything's on spin pole except for the static pole classes, and they teach intro and heels. So like the only class that you go to there that the instructor is not wearing heels is the one advanced tricks class, and even then heels are optional. So like people are still wearing heels. The instructor is just not wearing it because we have to physically spot people. But other than that, yeah, everything's in heels. And California is very similar. They're like, if you want to throw your heels on, go ahead. Like everything is an option. But I think in pretty much everything, I feel like New England's kind of shifted off in their own world anyways. And it just took a while before people were like, no, I kind of like that. Let's do that too. But it was a culture shock when I moved back, and me and one other person were wearing heels, and that was it.
Just right. I'm all about the heels.
I feel like up here in New England, it's gotten real sports, not sports like, but not as much heels. It's more like trick based. Like even in the competitions, like people trying to do the craziest tricks, the craziest transitions and combos and stuff.
Yeah, I like to tell people that I came from a performance community and I'm now in a competitive community, which I was not prepared for that. But that's on me for not like looking into the community first. And it's definitely different. There's a lot of upsides and downsides to either of those. But that was honestly kind of how Studio X started. Was I was having a lot of trouble finding my people. And the more I talked about it, the more I found students who also were having trouble finding the sections in the community that they felt that aligned with what they wanted. And it was basically just like the slutty people. And so we just started our own thing and was like, hey, heels based pole show, let's do it. Not to say that every studio didn't have these sub communities, but it was very competition heavy. And now I feel like it's kind of breaking off into varying levels of different facets of pole, which is really nice.
Love it. Well, do you have any pole dance philosophies? I know you shared a little bit about, but do you have in general, or maybe some like teaching philosophies?
Probably my pole dance philosophy is probably the same as my teaching philosophy, which is there's no right and wrong, there's just safe and unsafe. So I tell my students all the time, we're like, do you think I could? I'm like, is it safe? Because if it is, try it. I don't know. But like, if it's not safe, maybe we shouldn't be doing it. I say that, but also 99% of pole moves were created by someone being like, should I do this? And someone being like, no. And then the person just doing it. But you know your capabilities, right? Like if something feels unsafe, don't do it. Because I can tell people all day long an inside leg hang is safe for your body. But if you have an internal rotation, a really short torso, and you've recently had, surgery somewhere in your abdominal region, that's not a safe move for you. Don't do it. So if it's safe, do it. If it's unsafe, maybe don't.
Love it. That is my philosophy too.
For sure.
Should be everyone's philosophy. Like, let's not get hurt. You shouldn't
Right?
get
Yeah.
hurt.
Like be super weird, but just be safe.
Yeah. There was a time where like being injured in pole was cool. And I was like, no, why are you getting injured? You should not be getting injured that much.
No. Ooh, speaking of that though, like, so you've been in pole for a very long time. Do you have any tips about injury prevention?
So I have what I would consider three pole mamas, and all three of them are obsessed with injury prevention, human anatomy, kinesiology, like conditioning. So when I was in California, I had Amanda Rose, who was this amazing gymnast that just absolutely crazy. I think she's a nurse now, but she really taught me a foundation of preparation for pole. When I was in Nashville, Alethea had just been coming back from an injury, and she was really big on hip and shoulder and like joint, I don't know, preparation for pole. But just taking care of your joints, especially with aging bodies, as people start to get older, your body can't handle as much. And now that I'm at Paradigm, Maggie is really big. We've been doing this aggressive shoulder warm up. It's like, it takes us like 15 minutes, and it's the greatest thing in the world. But she's really big on making sure that your body is prepared before you move so that you don't have to take care of it after you hurt it.
So important. Thank you for sharing that.
Nerd out on it. That's my advice. It's worth it.
Well, you see. Oh, we've talked about some of the things that are coming soon for you with the next show, but do you have any other things?
I do. So the next show is 7th of September. We also are doing our first competition that day, so we're going to see how that goes. If there's a big drive for it, we'll do more. Then in October, I'll be at Pole in the Wall doing workshops. My last workshop scheduled for this year. And in October, Studio X is launching our instructor portal, which is a continuing education program, not a certification program. It is you buy it, you have access for life. And it's just, what kind of paperwork should I be expecting? What's standard? What is not standard? What should be expected of me? How do I spot this? How do I cue these things? So there's a lot of video of just, here are reminders if you took a certification program and you can't remember how to spot a butterfly because at the time you couldn't do them. Here's one way to do it. Just talking about safety mentally, emotionally, and physically for instructors, and making sure that instructors have the info that maybe some of us didn't have when we started. And we were like, yeah, it's totally normal for them to forget to pay us. It's not. And then the Art of Fitness showcase. It's in Fall River. It's on November 9th. I'm going to say 9th, final answer, because I think the Paradigm Showcase is on November 2nd, which would make it November 9th. But yeah, that's going to be fun. Like I said, I take on comedic relief. I have a group act this year with Lisa, which we joked about last year backstage. I was like, next year, we're doing Star Wars. And she's like, haha, yeah, okay. No, we are. We got lightsabers. So it will be me, Lisa, Kimberly, and Taylor doing a Star Wars bit in the middle of this very serious charity showcase. I don't know why Jess lets me come every year, but that should be great. And it's for charity, so.
Oh my gosh. That sounds so funny.
Yeah, last year Kimberly was doing like a burlesque act, and then I got on stage, Pirates of the Caribbean, with a light up sword. And I was like, yeah. And people were like, who invited these people? I don't know. It's a long show, and I was like, I need to do comedy. So that's what we do.
Sounds perfect.
Sometimes comedic relief is, the best medicine for things like that.
Yeah, it's definitely unexpected too. People are always looking at us like, what is happening? There was just this beautiful like Moulin Rouge, and then this, like, what is this? Last year Hillary did the worm in my act. There's a lot going on. It's great. It's really fun.
Oh my gosh, I love also the resources that you offer for teachers. Can we talk about that too? That's all on your website?
Yeah, so the instructor portal, it has like an introduction that goes over documentation, what's standard and what isn't. And we plan to keep building it. I have a really good group of instructors that I'm working with just on things that they felt like were lacking in information when they first started. I had a really good mentor who legitimately like walked me through everything, who at the time was really high in the pole industry, which made it convenient, but I didn't realize that's not normal. So documentation, understanding taxation between employee contractor, understanding, what's a non-solicit, what is a non-compete, what does this allow me or not allow me to do? Is it even legal in the area I'm in? We have a whole section on building curriculum. So if you're a new instructor and you're teaching 6 classes and you don't know how to manage that, talking about how you can create systems so that you don't get burnt out. We go over the mental and emotional toll that everybody, I think, as a new instructor hits at some point where you're like, this isn't fun. And then you're like, that must be normal. It's not normal. It should be fun, but how to combat that. And then we have videos of spotting and tips for spotting, tips for keeping your body safe on spotting. I'm 5 feet tall and I weigh about 100 pounds, and I spot people who are, 6'2", 185. So there has to be some system there for me not getting injured. And so we talk about how to do that, how to make sure that you're safely spotting your students, but also not injuring yourself. And there's a million ways to spot and cue things. So we go over some of the cueing tactics, like you may have a room full of dancers and that's great. But if you have the one person who's not a dancer, you can't say external rotation. They're going to have no idea what you mean. You're going to have to talk to them about it. So talking about, I like to give 3 cues in a row and just kind of help people to understand what I'm saying from 3 different perspectives, age, different mobility, just language barriers even. So just going over a lot of stuff with instructors that may have been reviewed with them or just maybe hasn't, especially if you do a program that's 8 hours long and then you get your certificate and you're like, yes. And then 3 months in, you're like, what? I don't remember how to do that, but I learned it. So yeah, we go over all that.
And you said it was a membership, and how much is the membership?
It is a one-time fee, and then you get to keep it for life as we build it. So the starting price is $150. It gives you a single login, and that way, as we build it and grow it, obviously the price will increase as we add instructors and add content. But to start out, anyone who buys it initially gets that and just gets to keep it. So yeah, we're going to start it out and then continue to build it, grow it, adapt it, depending on how the industry goes. And as we add aerial to our studio, we're going to add more content in the instructor portal for aerial instructors as well.
That sounds awesome. Everyone should act now. Get it at the introductory price.
In the captions and the notes of this episode, if you're watching or listening.
Yes.
That's excellent. Continuing education for pole dancers.
Yeah, for pole teachers, right? Because sometimes you just you get the certification and then maybe you want to start teaching online too. You're not ready yet. You need some extra.
all the things. Yeah, I feel like the coming up in the pole community when I started teaching was probably ideal because I kind of came up when they were starting to build these certifications and this started to become a thing. And so I kind of got to see how initially it was just people how do we make this work? And it's really developed over time, but it's still just some of them, you have to do a test or some type of demo. And some of them you just sign up and you get your certification. But if you don't remember, that's on you. So just having that backup and, we tell people all the time for our online content, it's buy it and just share the info, with your friends. The instructor portal is specifically not a membership fee for that reason, because we want people to have access to this. Because, pole and aerial both are highly unregulated and we want to make sure we're keeping everybody safe. And I, like most people, had no idea that I have all this information and other people just don't have it. So finally someone was like, you should put that online. I was like, huh, you don't have this? They're like, no, I can't just call up the, founder of Pole Expo and be like, hey, I'm like, you don't have that contact? But yeah, I'm hoping that by putting it all online, we give people access to information, hopefully any piece of information they're looking for. And then the instructor portal also gives you access. We're building a Facebook community so that at any given time, whoever is part of this community, you can ask questions, and questions come up all the time. I've had people ask me questions like, hey, my student has F cups. How do I teach a meat hook? And I'm like, that's a great question because I've tested this move on a lot of titties and we're going to have this conversation. Because you don't know, if it's not your body, you don't know how to adapt, you know. And as an instructor, it's kind of part of your job.
Right. And you only get better by doing or learning from others who have done.
Right. And not everybody has access to a massive community. I forget that. I just talk to everybody.
Certifications definitely do not teach you how to work with different body types.
Yeah.
Ooh, I think one of my favorite ones is castaways and genitals, where I'm like, you do not teach a feminine body and a masculine body the same way to cast off, because bodies. I had that discussion with someone once, and he was like, that explains a lot of why I don't like them. And I was like, yeah, you're getting way too close. But yeah, bodies. We talk a lot about bodies.
Yes. Everyone's body is different.
And skin. Everybody's skin is different. That's another fun one, when people realize dry hands is not the only grip, and for good reason.
Right? Yeah. Oh my gosh. Well, do you have any free time to do anything in your
I do.
for fun?
I actually travel a lot. I just got back from San Diego. I'll be going to Nashville. Mostly do pole when I travel, but a lot of it's just building Studio X and trying to get that off the ground so that all of the information is in one place. Right now, it's kind of just jumbling around my brain. Yeah, but yeah, most of it's just pole and online content.
Yes. I love the travel part though. Definitely need some time to decompress.
Mm-hmm. Which usually ends up with me doing or teaching pole, so it's still just more pole.
But it's different.
Mm.
So inspiring. Thank you for sharing with us. I mean, that is the goal for a lot of us who are trying to do it full time, to be doing what we love, have our hand in different things.
It's definitely a lot.
I believe it. I believe it.
And there's not as much. I hope more stuff like PoleCon pops up, because there used to be a lot of different conventions and things, and now it seems like just retreats. So I'm hoping that with time, more stuff pops up with a cross of other movement, because we don't have that anymore, where we used to have like yoga and pole, or martial arts and pole conditioning, like different things, like hand balancing. But there's not a lot of crossover. We've kind of segmented everything, and it's kind of a bummer. There's a lot you can learn from other industries, other movement styles.
Right, there is like a flow festival here, but it doesn't include dance or pole. It's like the flow arts. Yeah. There might be aerials. I don't know. But there should be more.
Yeah, I agree. I wish we could combine it all again, because I used to be a thing. Like, the fact that there's pole studios without aerial acrobatics in them, it blows my mind still. Because I'm like, I remember when that's what you did. Most studios have separated the two now, but in my brain, I'm like, oh my gosh, like I would have been so confused, because I used to do like 3 classes a day. I would do my pole, my silks, my lyra, and then I'd go home. But you can't do that anymore. You have to pick 3 days to go to different places, which is crazy to me. Or like, we have circus centers, but they don't do pole. And I'm like, can you just add it though? Like, just throw pole? Yeah.
Right. Right, because that would be cool to have like malls of movement.
They have one of those it was outside of Myrtle Beach. It was an old strip mall that you had to be some type of movement or health and fitness company to rent a space. So you'd walk in, it's like a trampoline park. And then there was a pole studio. There was like a nutrition shakes and snacks thing. There was like a Reiki healer. It was like all this. There was a straight up gym. It was really cool. But yeah, it'd be nice if the buildings were like side by side by side, pole, aerial, I don't know, something else.
Right?
Snacks.
So there are all of these empty malls. Pole dancers, please, let's do this.
We could have like sections of them all too, where it's like, this is the movement section. This Sears can be the gym because it's big. And then like the food court, we can have actual
Just, yeah, the food court needs to still be there, but like healthy.
We can get a carousel, put that in there, just like old school mall. I mean, it's a bunch of millennials doing pole anyways. Might as well give them what they want.
Oh my gosh, I love it. Oh, so many plans for the future.
We're gonna buy a mall. I'm into it. I'm here for it.
Yes.
If they have the old movie theater, we could just put a stage in. We could have shows. Oh, I'm here
See?
for it.
What else are we gonna do?
I got ideas. We can make this work.
Yes, I'm so down. But anyway, in the meantime, do you have any other tips to share for pole dancers or anyone who wants to start their own show or online content or any of the wonderful things that you do?
Do your research, get experience, and it is always going to be harder than you think it is. I have had people offer to do free things for my show specifically because they want access to the forms. They're like, I want to see what the forms look like. I'm like, go right ahead. I wouldn't know how to do any of that if it wasn't for Pole Expo. Running a big event and running a small event is the same thing. So just do your research, get your experience, and be safe. Be as safe as possible because there's a lot. It's a lot to keep track of.
Oh my gosh, right. I did like small circus performances before, and I would always be so scared about the safety. I can't even imagine.
Yeah, that's what the whole show runs off of us telling everyone safety first, entertainment second. If you forget your whole routine, we don't care. No one knows. Just, go interact with the audience. It's whatever. We have people who don't even touch poles or aerial equipment. So like just be entertaining. If a trick feels wrong, don't do it. Nobody, like, I usually reference Lisa. I'm like, we have Lisa. We're good. She's always, doing a crazy trick. And I'm just like, okay, I wish I could do that, but I have a spine. So, but yeah, shows you got to figure out what kind of show you're willing to do. The reason we continue to use stage poles is because we want the aerial equipment. I would love to just have a truss system and be able to put it all in there, but the space doesn't allow for it. So figure out what you want to do and do your research because you're going to need it.
Yes. Thank you so much for sharing that. And also for everything else that you shared.
Thanks for having me. This was fun.
Truly.
Yes. Right. I can't wait to see you in person and to take class with you coming soon. And there's still spots open in case you're in the area. And Jolene's workshops are also offered online.
The October ones that are on the wall?
Yeah. Oh, yeah, I should mention where they are. Yeah. I pull on the wall. Well, Cris, do you have any more questions or
Goodness. I feel like, were you able to promote everything that's coming up for you?
I think so.
Yes.
We got my show, we got our studio, the instructor portal, we got the Paradigm Showcase, we got workshops at Pole in the Wall, we got the cat showcase, the Art of Fitness. But that's it for the year. My end of year is always all over the place.
I feel that.
I think that I plan everything in the fall and then I'm like, why do I do this?
And now it's here.
Every year I get a group of people to go to Nashville with me at like the end of September, and every year I freak out and they're like, you chose the dates and you choose them every year. And I'm like, because after the show I just need to leave. Like I just need to leave for a minute. So
that makes sense.
That's on me.
That's too funny. I love it.
But it'll be awesome and perfect. And thank you so much for sharing everything in your pole journey. And so excited to see what's for the future and our mall.
No, it's going to be great. It's going to be great. And backtracking, the instructor portal does have a section on showcases and production as well.
Thank you for sharing that, because that's so important, because I feel like there should be more people doing it, and this would help, because it's scary to start something if you don't know what's going on. So thank you.
Those are just like, yeah, instructors can do that if they want. And you're like, what? Okay, I'll figure it out. So sometimes it's for them.
Right.
So we give them all the documents and stuff. Like, here's how we do it. Here's a really simple jump off point, and then modify as needed.
Love it. Thank you so much for that. I'm definitely going to check out the teacher stuff.
Yes, I can't wait to see what's in store for you in the future.
Too.
Yeah.
Everybody, make sure you check out the links in the captions and the notes, whether you're watching or listening. Give her a follow on Instagram and all of the good social medias.
Yes. And then with that, thank you so much for listening or watching this episode of Pull on the Call podcast. My name is Mændy Mac.
Woo! I am Cris Rivers.
And we're here with Jolene.
And I'm Jolene.
Ooh.
Yeah, I got glitter shoes. They're still glittery because I never wear them.
You're pretty flexible. Like, you lifted that up and didn't even have to move or anything.
That external hip rotation.
Too funny.